Right, so this is a movie set in a small Arctic town, presumably in Canada. A town that has a very high indigenous Inuit population. But the thing that really stands out when it comes to this particular town is that it unfortunately boasts the highest suicide rates in all of North America. And a lot of the people who are part of that sad statistic are teenagers. And without getting into a whole lot of detail here, let's just say that the opening sequence isn't exactly cheery or uplifting. But it does serve a clear purpose, and it serves to drive home the point of how serious the situation actually is. But the main story here follows this fairly young guy who comes to town as a teacher. And as he soon figures out, things aren't exactly great among the youth. Kids are regularly skipping school and getting up to all sorts of no good. So his solution to the problem is to try to get the kids excited about lacrosse. A sport they know about as much about as I did prior to watching this movie. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen a game of lacrosse played before. So that was definitely interesting. However, I can't say I've ever been a huge fan of sports in general. And I've never been a big fan of sports movies, with a few exceptions. And this is actually sort of a hybrid movie, a mix of two tropes I've seen many times before. One being the trope of the new teacher who comes to change the local kids' lives. And the other one being the basic sports movie, underdog type thing. I mean, we've all probably seen those two before, more than once. And this one sort of mashed those two together into one pretty coherent thing. However, I wouldn't necessarily say that it brings a whole lot of new things to the table. At least as far as the tropes, the structure and all of that goes. In fact, it did feel a tad bit formulaic, but that's not to say it was bad either. Because it's not, it definitely works, and in general I'd say it's a very solid movie. Now, from a technical point of view, it's also not doing anything special really. It's just a decent looking movie that does everything very competently. But just didn't manage to impress me too much, at least visually. However, where this movie really shines and where it stands out among most other similar movies is absolutely the human aspect, the story about these kids and this town. Because I really felt for them, I deeply sympathized with their situation. And I guess a lot of that has to do with the fact that I know this isn't made up. This is based on a real situation, and I know these kind of towns exist. And it's just sad and tragic the kind of situations these people have been more or less forced into. Modern society has just basically wrecked their people and their communities. And there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of solutions out there either. Also, I don't think lacrosse is gonna be the solution, but at least in this case, it did appear to have a positive overall effect, and that's great. But yeah, my point being that this movie deals with an absolutely real situation. And it felt real, and the stakes were a lot higher too than they usually are in movies like this. I mean, it literally deals with life and death, and it doesn't get much more real than that. And all of those things definitely helped me get invested in the characters and the story, even though I really don't care about sports or lacrosse. And movies like this can often come across as quite silly actually. But with this, I was able to connect to the people in the story and the struggles they went through. And that, as I said, is absolutely this movie's strength in a nutshell. That's what elevates this one above most other movies like it. And yeah, it actually surprised me a bit because it did manage to get to me emotionally, which I did not expect a movie like this to do, but it absolutely did. And I'd also say that more than makes up for some of the shortcomings. Although there aren't a ton of those either. In fact, I don't have any real major complaints. Just minor nitpicks here and there and stuff that could have possibly been more impressive. But nothing that had any sort of significant impact on the overall experience. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this one and thought it was a really decent movie. However, would I recommend it? Yeah, absolutely, unless you're squeamish about suicide. In which case, this is probably not the movie for you because there is a fairly heavy emphasis on that in this. But you know, maybe give this one a look. Or don't. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic. And if you'd like, you can also support me on Patreon or PayPal through the links in the description. And as always, I appreciate you and thanks for watching.